All right, Baldur's Gate enthusiasts, jumping in with this Tactica vlog. Absolutely no spoilers. No spoilers. So much of the game is discovery, the quests, the storyline, the character builds, the multiple playthroughs, the hidden parts of the game. And I want you to explore that through that D&D, Dungeons & Dragons lens. But you're searching YouTube here, and you're like, look, I need a little bit of help. I'm new to the game, or I'm halfway through and I'm loving it, but this seems really kind of hard. This is a little bit different. So I wanted to give you a couple of action points to think about, but again, with no spoilers. So the first piece is in understanding that this is the advanced Dungeons & Dragons rule set and the advanced Dungeons & Dragons mindset. What I mean by that is maybe you're familiar with Dungeons & Dragons, and if you are, certain things make sense in terms of the character classes and damage and behind-the-scenes dice. Leveling up is a little bit different. You understand THAC0 at some point. It's not radically different for a tabletop RPG from other types of Dungeons & Dragons. But what is different is the advanced Dungeons & Dragons mindset. AD&D is not balanced. What I mean by that, the adventures, the quests, and this carries over to Baldur's Gate, and I think it's a very good thing because it captured the rules at the time. There's this understanding that, okay, we can go left down the road or right. If I go right, you encounter a bunch of ogres, and you're like, wait, I'm only like third level. I can't do that. They'll kill me. AD&D throws a lot of stuff at you that is over your power level. There is no challenge rating. There is no potential balance. It's in the traditional tabletop game, it's up for the DM to describe it and the players to decide, maybe we're better off disengaging. Maybe we're better off not fighting it. And we see this captured in Baldur's Gate. It's also hard-coded into Baldur's Gate in that, and again, no spoilers, unlike newer role-playing games that try to implement some sort of challenge rating or adjustment, the encounters are fixed. The encounters are fixed all over the map, all over the game. They don't scale up or down. So it's not like some other games where if I walk in here at this point in level 1, there's 3 goblins. If I walk in at level 5, it adjusts and plants 6 goblins. So what you see in Baldur's Gate, and even following the story, that path, not that you have to follow that path, you can explore all around, some fights are going to be very challenging. And then, of course, Baldur's Gate is the narrative itself. With the story, there are some pretty powerful NPCs, non-player characters, actors. There are things going on in the Sword Coast. You are fighting powerful agents. So the fights are going to reflect that and be very, very memorable. And should you complete BG1, BG2, and Siege, that's a major gaming accomplishment. That really is. I mean, put aside for the moment the fun and the awesome leveling up and the different combinations. Just to achieve that really, really says a lot. So certain fights are going to be more challenging. Here's some ideas to get through them. Potions. There are various potions in the game that not only heal you, but also buff you, also give you certain abilities. Now, potions being AD&D tend to be pretty expensive, and they don't necessarily last that long. I mean, some have a long effect. Most are not very long. Think of it as a way to quickly augment you or take away the primary abilities of what you're fighting. Potions in terms of consumables and the different places you can buy them throughout the phases of the game make a massive difference. I won't say you can't complete the game without potions. I mean, there is a strategy to sell them because they can be very valuable and use that gold to buy equipment. But right away, by navigating potions at certain key points, that is going to make all the difference. That's going to make a massive, massive difference. So the first thing is to look for potions. As you find them, keep them. And as you discover them, even if you don't have the gold to purchase them right now, to understand, okay, how much do they cost? And if I happen to run into an encounter that I can't handle, maybe I need to back out, save up, buy those potions, use those potions. So absolutely consumables. Second aspect, buffs. Now, the NPCs in Baldur's Gate that join your party, again, no spoilers, have different character classes. There is no right or wrong. Some builds are easier to play than others. Certainly, you could even do Baldur's Gate as a solo run, just you. And you as the primary character, you can be a variety of character classes. But having a cleric or having a druid secondary, I'd say cleric primary, being AD&D, and this is certainly not familiar for newer versions of D&D, the ability to buff is massive. Yes, a cleric fights. Yes, a cleric heals. Yes, a cleric deals with undead. And certainly this is no spoiler, there's enough undead in Baldur's Gate simply because it's AD&D. You know there's going to be dragons. You know there's going to be undead. You know there's going to be magic users. But having those simple buffs really add up. I mean, behind the scenes, it's dice, it's rolling, it's stats. So every plus something that you can get, every adjustment that you can get, especially to hit and damage, makes a massive, massive difference. Really, really important. So look for those buffs. We have the potions to buff, and we also have the cleric spells or the druid spells that could potentially buff. Throwing those out, handing those out. The next aspect is magic. Magic is important in D&D. In AD&D, it's very, very important. And the magic, not only in damage dealing, but area control. Look at spells that can directly deal damage. The aspect with magic is, yes, you are limited, and there's no spoilers here because certainly you can have an awareness of the spells. There is a limit to the spells you can cast. But the difference is you cut out the first part of the AD&D mechanics. You have to hit, right? Actually, there's maybe three parts. I have to get up. I have to be in range. Now, that range can either be a missile weapon or something that shoots like magic, which as long as I have line of sight, I can immediately engage. Otherwise, if it's going to be more of a close combat type weapon, I have to make it up there. Magic has range for the most part. I mean, you've got chill touch and things like that. But let's just look at something simple like magic missile. You have line of sight, you immediately cast. The second aspect is it automatically hits. That's huge because you're not navigating that middle piece of I need to hit, what's the THAC0, what's the armor class, how does that navigate, like what do I roll? You just go right in and you hit instantly. That's damage that's dealt instantly. So magic has that real bonus of bypassing that first phase. As you level up, there's also area control and crowd control. I mean, we see this with some cleric spells too. If I can't defeat all the monsters, I mean, look at sleep. Doesn't always work. But if there's 4 hobgoblins and I can sleep and put 2 or 3 to sleep, or even 1, 2 would be better. That's a massive gain. If I can't kill the monsters, then I take them out. So look at your spells. Understand your spells tactically, how to use them. The final piece depends on the device that you're playing on. Now, Baldur's Gate originally being computer-based, essentially playing it with a mouse, that's how the interface was made. And it's a role-playing game. It's got an amazing story. It's got amazing characters. But it's primarily a combat engine. I'm advancing my characters. You're advancing your characters with how we play. So in understanding that combat engine, being able to pause and activate or pause and position, select different weapons, select different strategies. If you see things in the moment, pause it. Being able to navigate the actual combat screen is big. On a tablet, it's still possible just for the portability. I mainly play Baldur's Gate on my phone. It's hard. It is harder. So what you might find is, depending literally on the screen size and the interface, it might take a little bit longer to do certain things. So exploring that and realizing your interface might change things and might slow things down. Okay, be ready to jump back in. Potions, buffs, spells, interface. Look to navigate those, and that will take you very, very far in the game.